Welcome in. Hail to the podcast brought to you by Maize and Blue Review. We cover Michigan for the Rivals Network, which means you can find us at michigan.rivals.com. I am currently doing the same thing I was doing Saturday, which is I can't stop smiling. I felt like the Joker after that game. I literally just laughed for like a half an hour. I couldn't stop laughing. I do owe my 7-year-old, though. There was something I said I would say at the start of the show for him, so any of our loyal former cut-ups fans will remember Toski and I last year, Michigan, Ohio State. And I said, Michigan defeats Ohio State again, 13-10, for Pete. Hey, Ryan Day, what happened? He's going to love that. All right. I'm joined as always, Intel Insider Publisher, Mr. Maize and Blue Review himself, Josh Henschke. How you doing, bud? Have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was a nice little weekend, you know.
Go to Home Depot?
I did not. It's really funny, you know. I was contemplating when this game was happening, my ridiculous rant from a couple of weeks ago, and if you would have told me that I was ranting about basically nonsense at this point. You know, I was there. Thank you, Dougie. I mean, yes, I take full credit to this season's turnaround. Damn it, this was me. I did it all. My rant totally changed the trajectory of the season. Not really. I'm just kidding.
Someone had to say it.
I mean, it was true at the time, but I don't know what happened after that Indiana halftime. It just a complete opposite. And I am going to stand on my pedestal for defending Wink Martindale, and all these people calling me stupid for defending Wink Martindale. You know, you can eat your crow too, but I mean, I'll certainly eat my crow about the rant. I mean, they definitely turned it around. You know, I don't change anything that I've said. I think it needed to be said. What were they doing? And they figured it out. They found a way. Unbelievable. I just, yeah, I have no words for what I saw on Saturday, but
that is a lie. You will have tons of words.
That's true. No, that is very true.
Our guy Brock Heilig joining us was in Columbus, which that had to be fun. Tell me about Columbus, Brock.
It was a great time. It was spectacular, and you know, at the beginning of the game, or at the beginning of the day, even not even during the game, like before the game even started, on my way from the hotel to the stadium, I saw a grand total of 3 Michigan fans, and it felt like a coronation for Ohio State. Like,
there was not a lot of Michigan fans there.
No, there weren't, and it felt like they were all prematurely celebrating a victory over Michigan to avenge the last 3 years. And it felt very similar to how it felt at the national championship last year when Michigan basically walked into Houston and pretty easily dealt with Washington. That felt like a coronation of sorts for Michigan, having already, you know, beaten Alabama in the Rose Bowl and gotten over that hurdle. It just felt like it was a foregone conclusion that Michigan was going to win the national championship, and they did. That's how it felt early on before the game even started for Ohio State fans in Columbus. It just felt like a big party. And throughout the game, obviously everyone watched it. That's not how it turned out. And you know, the energy at the beginning was up here. And then, you know, it just kept kind of going down and down and down and down throughout the game as things kept trending toward Michigan's way. And obviously by the end, they were all stunned and left in silence. But I don't know, two trips to Columbus for me, and it's been two very similar, two similar trips so far with the big blowout in 22, and then obviously yesterday's game not being as explosive, anywhere near as explosive or entertaining, but
it was very entertaining.
That was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
Ask me, are you not entertained?
Oh boy,
because I'm entertained. So. And we've got so much to get into. You brought up Wink. I definitely have some comments on Wink. I've been a harsh critic of Wink's. I believe either myself or Seth were referenced by him at a press conference this year. So I have some comments there. And then, you know, Brock, your point about Ohio State, I think, is massive. And you're seeing it with Ohio State fans right now. I said after or going into the 2023 game with Harbaugh's suspension and Stallions, obviously, everything going on in their mind, if they won that game, it would invalidate the previous 3 years. I thought Michigan had so much pressure on them in that game to validate everything they had accomplished in a weird way. And we talked about this almost the entire show last week about how much pressure was on Ohio State. What I realized Saturday was that team had the pressure to invalidate the previous 3 years. Ohio State fans had convinced themselves that the grainy iPhone footage that may or may not have been sent to Connor Stallions from his mother is the reason they lost 3 games. And that if they won this year, it would prove that those other 3 didn't count. So they lost 4 times on Saturday is what happened, because they knew all year this was the best version of their team they had yet. That Michigan lost their coaches, they lost their program, they lost their players. There's no chance you're going to beat us. And now not only are they thinking, oh my God, they still won, they're thinking, how are we ever going to win? Because of all the momentum Michigan has off the field with recruiting, Bryce Underwood, everything, and we'll get into that. Real quick, do you want to mention, shameless plug, you see it scrolling on the bottom. We are still running through today, Josh, or Monday?
Through tomorrow. Monday.
Through Monday, yeah. For those listening back, Monday might be today, whatever.
Yep.
Through Monday evening, we are running our Black Friday sale, 75% off your entire first year over at Maize and Blue Review. That gets you access to the Den, our message board community. It gets you access to all of our premium content. I posted a 2025 offensive roster preview today. We do a lot of analytical breakdowns throughout the season, football and basketball. And then obviously Josh's intel when it comes to recruiting and football team information, all of that available at michigan.rivals.com. Head over to sign up, use promo code Rivals24. Otherwise, if you follow any of us on Twitter, at Trevor McCue, at Josh Henschke, or at Brock Heilig, we have it posted as well. You click the link, it automatically fills in the promo, blah, blah, blah. If you're listening here or watching here, we'd love to have you at the site, michigan.rivals.com. Okay, let's get into this game. I was way wrong on the score, but I did tell you guys going into this game, I had this weird feeling that I thought Michigan could do well. We all talked about that Michigan needed to make this game ugly.
Yep.
Right. I think all the things we said Michigan needs to do to win kind of happened. I brought up punting. I think there was an exchange that doesn't get enough attention, which was Doman's punt that Caleb Downs let roll by that ended up being like 68 yards or something like that. The very next possession, Ohio State had to punt, and it was short, and they caught it inside the 50, and that led to, guys, by the way, I don't know if you've heard this yet, the greatest nickname of all time, Michigan's kicker, Dominic Zavadamatic.
Who said that?
I don't know. I saw it. Zavadamatic.
That's pretty damn good.
It's a great nickname. So Zavadamatic hit his field goal. But if you had told me Davis Warren was going to pass for 60 yards and throw 2 interceptions, including one in the red zone, that Michigan would have missed a 4th down conversion in the red zone, that they only score 13 points, I would not have believed you that Michigan was going to win this game. The offense did enough, and at the end of the game, and we'll get into this 4th quarter, which is unbelievable, Michigan ran the ball when they needed to. And I know Ohio State fans are so pissed off at Ryan Day for running the ball as long as he did, and we'll get into that too. But the team that runs the ball wins this game. Michigan ran the ball, they won the game. The defense, though, I mean, what can you say about this performance? Michigan defense holding this Ohio State offense to 10 points. I don't know, Josh. Where were you watching this game? I kind of was slowly talking myself into the possibility of Michigan winning. Had kind of a 2017 vibe in that way. Mm-hmm. And then there was just kind of this moment of okay, this is where every time Michigan stalled out or whatever, it's okay, here's where Ohio State takes over. And they missed short field goals or Michigan forced a turnover. It's just Ohio State was never able to capitalize. And then they ended up losing 4th straight time. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think towards halftime, you're just kind of thinking, all right, good. You're at least happy to be there if you're Michigan at 10-10. Obviously, the way Ohio State drove the ball down the field towards the end of the half, you thought, okay, maybe they kind of might have figured it out there towards the end of the half, and they'll take that momentum coming out of the half. But the momentum just never showed up. And again, we talked about this so many times last week. The mental aspect of the game. If Ohio State has a chance to piddle down its leg, it's gonna piddle down its leg. And Ohio State, so much piddle. There's just puddles of piddle all over, surrounding everywhere as Ryan Day's walking up and down the sideline. His pants were actually light gray before the game, but they were dark gray because they're just soaked in piss. But all jokes aside, the mental aspect took over. I don't know what it is. It's this mental, and Michigan went through the same exact thing in this rivalry. It's a mental thing where you have to prove so hard that you're not the same that you are, that you're working so hard to get over this hump that you get away from what works and you lose all sense of what you are as a program, and you try to be something that you're not just to prove a point. You're not tough. You're not a man ball team. You're a finesse team that plays in a northern state that gets cold in November. And guess what? You lost to a walk-on quarterback. And you know what? Davis Warren, take a freaking bow, sir. You beat Michigan State. You beat Ohio State first try. I mean, I don't care what happened. Like, no one's going to remember. Yeah, you'll remember. They'll probably remember him struggling on the field. But the misnomer, the asterisk at the end of everything that you say about his performance, hey, he beat Ohio State. I mean, this is probably the most embarrassing loss from Ohio State standpoint, because Michigan had realistically had no business winning this game. But that's why you play these games, is because it's the mental aspect took over of Ohio State. And again, you clam up. You could hear the butts clenching when the field goals missed. You could hear the collective clench in the stands. It's like, oh God, here we go again. And it happened so many times with Michigan too. As soon as something would go wrong, Michigan gives up a big play or a big run or whatever, they clam up. And it's just this, it's this thing. It's a mental thing. And Sherrone Moore has that mental edge right now. And he will, as long as Ryan Day is there, because the longer this goes on, the more this is going to be on Ohio State's shoulders. Guess what? Next year, the same pressure is going to be on Ohio State. It's not going to be on Michigan's shoulders. I don't care if the records are both 11-0, and this is for all the marbles. It's going to be on Ohio State's shoulders, because now you're heading back to Ann Arbor. Now Michigan, you're coming off this big deal scuffle at the end of the game. Now, the pressure's all on Ohio State to get over this hump, because they're going to make changes just for this rivalry, which again never works. $20 million, what does that get you? 10 points? Like it's a mentality issue that they have. It's a mentality issue, and they just don't have it. And again, the rot starts at the top and works its way down. And there's no excuse for the way Ohio State played that they did. That was not the Ohio State team that played Oregon, that has played multiple times this year. Pretty darn good football. And hey, that's fine with Michigan. They'll take it, because guess what? That's 4 in a row, and that's just going to be something that they, tell recruits, hey, 4 in a row against these guys. Why don't you come in and make it 5, 6, 7, and 8? You know what I mean? So it's a compounding thing that starts. I mean, obviously, I feel like I'm not giving enough credit to the staff, because the staff and players, because you got to show up and play the game. But I think Ohio State just piddled on themselves just as much as Michigan played a good game. I think that's it. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Obviously, Michigan deserves the credit, but
just a little piddle.
Yeah, just a little piddle, just a little stain, just a little pants stain. But I think it's just as much as a mental thing as it is Michigan playing the game of its life.
We talked about it, Brock, the mental piece of it. I mean, Josh is right. I think that was just we saw it before the game. I brought up, I still feel weird talking about it. The comments Ryan Day made about how this is impacting his family, and not comparing it to his father, but I think he realized in that moment, like, I should probably mention what happened with my father and make sure I'm creating some separation between these two. Pat Ford, no offense, dude, but shut up. Put out an article about this rivalry needing to be reset. He was talking about Day's daughter crying. That wasn't Michigan fans screaming, "Fuck Ryan Day" in that stadium. Okay. Ryan Day compared this rivalry to war and brought up the emotions that it's impacting his family and blah, blah, blah. Right. Like, I am so sick of other people having, sorry to take your thunder, Brock, it was your turn. I told you I've got rants. I'm sorry, but I am just so sick of, and this is part of the thing that happened at the end of the game too, with the flag. And now both schools get fined $100,000 and like, oh, you can't think you're allowed to do that. You need it. Why this hatred for Michigan that these other schools have, that when they lose, it's this like catastrophic, whatever, like you created that environment. Right. Yeah. So I just, that mental piece of it, like how sick it's making them, man. It's crazy. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, to add on to that point about the mental piece, last week I sat here and I talked about how the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game were the most critical, in my opinion, because if Michigan could just plant that seed of doubt in the minds of the Ohio State players, coaches, and fans, if they could just get something to go their way, that seed would be planted in their minds, and it could have snowballed from there. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Michigan didn't really – it's not like Michigan had some big, long touchdown or forced a turnover early. But by the end of the first quarter, you're sitting there looking at the scoreboard, and it's 3-0. And I think Michigan was perfectly fine with that. They weren't panicking. I don't think Ohio State was panicking either. I think they would have liked to be up by more. But Michigan would take that in a heartbeat, being down 3-0 after 15 minutes of football. And I think at that point, it wasn't a specific moment, but I think after all of the events of the first quarter, I think that seed was planted. It started getting a little bit, like you mentioned, Josh, like that "here we go again" mentality from the players, coaches, and fans. And at that point, it seemed to me like Ohio State was playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And when you play not to lose, bad things happen. So it was honestly more of a mental game than it was a physical game. Obviously, Michigan out physicaled Ohio State and really dominated in the trenches. I think they outrushed them by more than 100 yards. But that mental aspect, it's huge now. It's so big, and it's what Michigan, like Josh said, it's what Michigan dealt with for 10 years. Maybe you could argue they dealt with it for 2 decades because they lost like Absolutely. 15 out of 16 or whatever it was. And now the switch is flipped. It's on Ohio State, and Michigan's going back home next year with Bryce Underwood. And the Buckeyes are going to lose like half their starters at least. Like all these seniors that came back, they're all gone.
What Michigan struggled with this year is going to be Ohio State next year. All the guys that came back that gave them a loaded roster are now going to leave.
Right. So that I think that mental hurdle is only going to keep compounding, and it's going to be real trouble for Ohio State. I don't know if we're going to get into talking about Ryan Day and his future there, but I can't imagine there's any future if they don't win the national championship.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. Josh, go ahead.
Shout out the GOAT, by the way.
The GOAT.
Stephen Austin Toski, the GOAT. Toski, the GOAT.
No cap.
No cap. Shout out the GOAT.
Oh, I miss you, Toski.
We miss you, Toski.
I love that, dude. You're my brother. Hope you're doing good, man.
I hope you're good.
You need to go back and watch the start of the show. You might be the only one that got the reference I did if you didn't see it, Toski, but I dropped a what happened Ryan Day. So I'm all emotional. I love Toski. The mental aspect is all of it. And I think maybe it's so evident to us because, Brock, to your point, it was Michigan's problem for years. Like we saw it be Michigan's problem. And it was such this little switch in 2021. Like, you ask all these players, like, you know, what happened? And they're like, honestly, we just stopped saying we know we can win or we think we can win. Just said we're going to win, right? And look, Michigan dedicates 365 days a year to Ohio State, but I think they do it in a healthy way or in a true preparation way, right? That Urban Meyer was the same way. Urban Meyer built his team to beat Michigan every single year. Like, that was just part of it. And there's fun gimmicky stuff in this rivalry, but at their Skull Crush session or whatever the hell that weird morning pep rally is that they have, Ryan Day said something about, look, we've done everything we can to beat Michigan, to prepare. We don't wear blue. We don't say the M word, but this isn't about them. And then I went, wait a minute. You think because you don't wear blue and you cross out the little M's and you don't say Michigan and you call them that team up north, you think that's how you prepare to beat Michigan?
Yep.
You are so obsessed with the gimmicks of the rivalry that you're not actually paying attention to the game itself. And the excuses, how many times have we made fun of the excuses, but they never stop from him. I actually respect Ryan Day a lot. I like Ryan Day. I've talked about this a lot. The mental health things that he does for awareness, blah, blah, whatever. But the constant, not once, man, Michigan got us. Not once. We're just not doing this, right? He called timeout twice. I don't know how they didn't call the penalty on him for this. Instead, they said it was 12 men on the field, and that's where Michigan got the first down late in the fourth quarter. Maybe they've changed the rule differently than I understand based on the fact Ryan Day was crying earlier this year when Oregon used it to their advantage. But he called timeout after a timeout, which you're not allowed to do because they had 12 men on the field. In the press conference, Josh, I don't know if you saw this, he complained that Michigan was moving so fast. And normally you have more time to be able to adjust to the substitutions. And, you know, they got caught there because they were moving so fast. It was out of a timeout. And I don't remember who posted the video. Now I kind of feel bad. But somebody posted on Twitter and literally showed, here's Michigan's lightning run to the huddle. And it's them just like after every timeout, slowly jogging back onto the field, you know? And it's like, you just can't stop doing it. I've already heard, well, it's a few special teams plays. You know, Downs let that punt go down. And obviously we missed a couple kicks. And without that, they win. I mean, Michigan could say the same thing. Without their mistakes, they win 30-10, right? They just don't. Yeah, and it was windy. It just doesn't stop.
He's just James Franklin with a dye job. That's pretty much it. He's James Franklin with hair and a dye job. I mean, would any program trade Ohio State's current record over the last however many years he's been coach? Yeah, absolutely. But it's a Michigan problem. They have a Michigan problem.
I've said this for a while. How do you feel about? I think Ryan Day's uncomfort at Ohio State because look, Ohio State, Michigan. Some of these places are hard jobs. You have to win, but you have to win the way we want you to win, right? I've said, do you think Ryan Day at like a Texas is competing and winning national championships at least easier and not dealing with the headache he has here? Like you said, it's a Michigan problem.
To quote the kids, he ain't got that dog in him. He don't have that dog in him. He don't have that dog in him. The lights get too bright, and look what happens. He gets all frazzled. He can't figure it out. I mean, the theme of Ohio State all year is just shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, you got Will Howard doing that inexcusable slide with 2 seconds left in the game against Oregon. It's just they don't have that dog in them. They don't, and that starts.
That guy.
Yeah, he's not that guy, pal. He's not that guy.
You're not that guy.
It's a little, it's funny. He's got that dog. He says the dog's a corgi. You know, I think it's a little fuzzy little Shih Tzu that they've got in him. That's the dog.
Corgis are awesome. First off,
yeah, I think that's an offense to corgis.
And fuzzy little Shih Tzu.
Yeah. A fuzzy little Shih Tzu. That's this dog in him. His little
You're on
yippy,
one. I
yippy,
love it
yippy,
so much.
yippy dog.
Should we talk like some minutia here?
Hey, I'll stop talking when Ohio State starts winning. I don't care.
Man, we're gonna be here a long time.
I'm gonna be old and wrinkly.
You know, one thing I talked about at the start of the year, and part of the reason I was confident Michigan was going to win this game. Granted, that was me buying a lot of the hype, and we Josh had a good rant on that too. About I do think the coaches misread their own team. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, one of the things, Brock, you might remember, I talked about this. I said, look, you couldn't win with CJ Stroud. I don't care about the wide receivers you have because you had, right? List off all the wide receivers that you had. Your offensive line is worse. I do think, honestly, they were dealt some serious blows with injuries to the offensive line this year, and the way they've patched that together, they did pretty good. I mean, in all honesty, what they did to adapt to the offensive line, they did pretty good. But hey, what do you know? Will Howard, 19 of 33, 175 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. That's about 100 yards less than Kyle McCord and a touchdown less than what Kyle McCord had last year. That might have been, I was raging on Twitter yesterday. I think my favorite one of the day might have been on the day Will Howard loses to Michigan. Kyle McCord beat the quarterback Ohio State actually wanted, Cam Ward. But listen, Jeremiah Smith, dude, shout out Jair Hill. Jeremiah Smith, 5 catches, 35 yards, and a TD. I thought a couple of the PIs might have been controversial. He got away with an OPI, but Carnell Tate, 6 for 58. Igbuka, 4 for 51. They ran the ball 26 times for only 77 yards. Alex Orji had more rushing yards than Trevion Henderson.
Oh.
You want me? I think I got more of these. That was a good one.
That is a fantastic stat.
I'm going to make it better. Alex Orji had more rushing yards than Trevion Henderson and Will Howard combined by 1 yard. Davis Warren had more rushing yards than Will Howard. Right? So props. I think they figured out their defense. Jim Knowles has done a great job. That probably is the best defense in college football.
Yep.
And in the meantime, the offensive whiz kid, Ryan Day, has deteriorated this offense year after year that he took from Urban Meyer. And his answer this year was to go get his mentor, Chip Kelly, and not reward Brian Hartline. And then maybe Chip Kelly's calling plays, and maybe he's not in different moments in this game. I don't remember where I was going with this, to be honest with you, but like they got worse on offense. And I think, I mean, here's the truth with this new playoff format. If this was last year, Michigan eliminates Ohio State from the Big Ten championship game in the playoff. And it's and I know it feels that way to them right now, but the truth is if they go on and win a natty, they're not going to care. Right. That's kind of a bummer. But if they don't, what a miss. So you brought it up. Where are you on the Ryan Day thing? Because like where we talked about the optimism with Moore and his strengths and where he's fixing things, if the thing you're bad at is the thing you're supposed to be good at, and the thing that cost you this year is the thing you specifically went out of your way to fix. You went got Chip Kelly, you went and got Quinshawn Judkins to run the football in this game, and you couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, if we're talking about Ryan Day, I mean, you know how much this game means to Ohio State fans. It clearly means a lot to them with how seriously they take it and everything like that, and how much they talk about it. But Ryan Day is John Cooper. That's just what it is. Like he cannot beat Michigan, and the only time he did was with Urban Meyer's team, and ever since he's been able to establish his own culture, they can't win. And I wasn't alive during the 90s, so I don't know how long Cooper lasted, but I can't imagine it was long.
Get out of here.
Did they let him sit around and lose to Michigan constantly?
Yeah.
Did they really? I don't. Well,
sorry, I'm trying to get past. I wasn't alive in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm a little hung up on that one.
He was here till 2000.
And he started when?
88. He was there for a while.
Okay.
So he lost to Michigan and he lost bowl games. And then every year it felt like they were going to fire him. They'd go 11-1 and win the Rose Bowl and almost win a national championship. So like 96 was, you weren't even born. And I vividly remember the 96 Rose Bowl of Ohio State versus Arizona State and Jake Plummer. Vividly remember this Rose Bowl, and you weren't even born yet. And then, 97, obviously Michigan wins it all, but then they bounce back in 98 and there were just these back and forths. But yeah, 2000, they fire him and then they hire this nobody that nobody's ever heard of from this little Youngstown State. He wears a sweater vest. Yeah. And then Jim Tressel comes in and the rivalry's changed forever. So.
Well, I can't imagine.
Go ahead, Brock. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I can't imagine that they're going to let that happen again, right? I saw someone say he went 2-9-1 or whatever against Michigan at that time. They're not going to let that happen again. Like, in my opinion, if I was an Ohio State fan, I would say, listen, you let them stick around to see if they can win a national championship. But if they don't, you got to get rid of them. And one thing I was thinking about throughout the last 24 hours after this game had ended, I don't know how you pick up the pieces if you're Ryan Day. How do you get this team prepared to play in the playoff? Like, everyone's distraught. The entire reason all these seniors came back was to win that game, and they didn't. And you saw the way Jack Sawyer was acting after the end of the game on the field. I don't know how you rally the troops to go probably play on the road. The fact of the matter is they're probably going to play on the road now. And they're going to have to go win, what would that be, 4 games to win a national championship after losing to Michigan in one of the probably the biggest upset now in the rivalry's history. And they're expected to go and win 4 games to claim a national championship. Yeah. I think they got to win 4.
Yeah.
No, you said biggest upset in the rivalry. I'm like, I'm sure some old heads are going to push back with the 69 game. But I mean, Josh, we kind of actually talked about that. I made the joke that when I made my score prediction, I like kind of being gimmicky with my scores. And I was like, I'm going to do the 1969 game because it's Moore's first year and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was like, 24-12, though. That's too low scoring. I couldn't put that. I wish I would have now. But
I'm always kind of iffy.
But that's the vibe, though, right?
It absolutely is the vibe. And
just completely different eras, though.
So right. I'm always iffy, like comparing, like even when we were talking about, the 97 national championship team to last year's national championship team, the game of football has changed so much, even from that little time. I mean, you're talking 1969 to 2024. It's just the eras in the modern era, if you want to call it a modern and past era, the modern era, the modern era, absolutely. This is the biggest upset of all of the entire.
How many times have I told you guys that 2020 Michigan State game? I thought Harbaugh, and I know it's COVID, okay, that's the giant umbrella over this entire discussion, but Michigan was 24-point favorites at home to Michigan State, who had a new head coach and had a tougher transition and a worse roster. And I said, you can't lose that football game. And the vibe here is at least the same there. And it's like, how much oxygen did you just give this Michigan football program? Right? Yeah. Like we talked about, I think we've set the vibe throughout the year about how we were feeling after each game and like, oh my God, what can you do to make this season feel like a success? And we talked about, God, you have to get a bowl game. And I told you the Michigan State game was a huge thing. You had to beat Michigan State. Yeah. And they used the bye week to prepare for Ohio State. They used the game against Northwestern to crush them and prepare for Ohio State. And they beat Ohio State. And I'm going to speak for myself and people that are watching live in the comments, let me know how you feel. People watching on playback in the comments, let me know. I don't think I'd give a shit about 7-5.
Oh, no way.
You won the national championship last year, and if you told me you're going to go 15-0 and win the Natty in 23, listen, Harbaugh, a bunch of guys, players are going to leave. Moore's going to take over. The transition's probably going to be rougher than you think it's going to be. You're going to beat Michigan State. You're going to beat Ohio State, the two fan bases that are most convinced that all your success was because of Connor Stallions and are going to talk the most crap all year about you being down. You're still going to beat them. And, you're you're going to finish with a top 5-ish recruiting class because you landed Bryce Underwood.
Yep.
Who's not taking that deal? And I know some people, it's like, I don't know, maybe we could have been 9-3 or 10-2 if Warren had started. And I know some of that's there. Josh, I remember you told me being benched was kind of a good thing for Davis Warren, right? In terms of the way he bounced back.
I still believe it. I still believe it.
So there's a weird if then there that I'm not comfortable getting into. So at the end of the day, these bowl practices that are coming up are all about 2025. The mood in this program has completely flipped.
Yeah.
Look, Ohio State could still go on and win a national championship, but I think if you ask an Ohio State fan today, would you rather be us or Michigan? I mean, what program would you trade places with right now, even after 7-5? Honestly,
none. I wouldn't trade in it.
You know, so
maybe Georgia, maybe
Texas is because of where they're at or something. Sure, but But
I think the trajectory right now for Michigan. I mean, like it's going to go as far as how where Sherrone Moore takes this thing. I mean, he proved Saturday that this is his program. He's stamped on it. He's getting it in the right direction. Everything behind the scenes is falling into place, and he's finally getting it into place to now where he doesn't have to worry about it. So now you can focus on coaching and filling out his staff and getting things right. So now it's full speed ahead on football. He's got all that, he's got all that stuff, and the 25 recruiting class is shaping out to be really nice. 2026, if you listen to what some people behind the scenes are saying, could be even better than 25. Look, it's limitless where the potential can go. Now it just comes down to developing these kids, and I think this current staff has done a pretty good job late of developing kids and getting the most out of a situation here. But I mean, the to take Michigan's current schedule this year to bring to kind of shout out Toski's point here, 7-5 with that schedule. And
what are they if they just trade places with Penn State?
Yeah, everything else in between that happened, the getting the Bryce Underwoods, the beating Michigan State and Ohio State. Hey, look, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's a really damn good coaching job by Sherrone Moore in a really unenviable situation from start to finish. And I'm talking day one taking over after Jim Harbaugh left.
We talked about that. I think that a lot of that's, not our fault too. Right?
Yeah, it's old. It's old news now. All of those excuses are gone. They're gone. They were gone.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what happened. Even Saturday, those excuses are gone. But now, those excuses are gone. The momentum is all on him right now, and he can take this program wherever he wants to take it.
Go ahead, Brock.
I was just going to add that it's if you came to me on August 31st, the day of the season opener, and told me Michigan was going to be 7-5 and beat Michigan State and Ohio State and get Bryce Underwood, and from August 31st to today, December 1st, all these things would happen, and that's how Michigan's regular season would end up. I'd say that's a success, and it's crazy. It's crazy to say that now based on how bad the team looked at points this season, like at Washington, at Illinois, when they could hardly move the football, losing to Indiana when they probably should have won based on that second half defensive performance. Like all these games where they just looked so awful on offense. And somehow, at least in my opinion, maybe some people in the comments would disagree with me, but in my opinion, the season's a success. And you're heading into 25 now with the number one quarterback in the class and an opportunity to really build this program. Sherrone Moore said yesterday the foundation of the program is beating Ohio State. And they did that in his first full year as head coach. And now they're going into 25. They're going to get Ohio State at home next year. And they have an opportunity to build that foundation even more.
We haven't even mentioned, this is such a great point.
Yeah.
You won without Colston Loveland. You won without Will Johnson. You
You
lost.
won throwing the ball 60 yards.
It's
60
crazy.
yards.
Brock, I think if you would have asked me, if I considered that a success, I probably would have said no. But now that I'm here and I'm living it, somebody brought up a good point on one of the message boards I'm on. How often do people say, what would you rather take? 11-1, but blah, 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 or 9-3, but you beat blah, blah, and you never know. Well, now we know that in a year where they were down, and yes, 7-5, and we all hoped 9-3 and backing to the playoff was the realistic expectation. With the the future's bright. That's all you can ask for. With the future being bright, you still beat Michigan State and Ohio State in a down year and have turned recruiting around in a down year, blah, blah, blah. As I sit here, it feels like a success. I'm happy with the current state and outcome. So how can you say it's not a success?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Brock. Go ahead.
Think about all the years in the early Harbaugh years when they failed to beat either team. Yeah. They beat essentially every other Big Ten team, but then lose to both Michigan State and Ohio State.
That's a good point.
It felt like a pipe dream to be able to beat Ohio State in particular, but beating both was seemingly impossible. And now they've done it in 3 straight years. It's honestly kind of crazy, but it's a success in my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans kind of had to reset their expectations pretty early into the year, us included. Well, I don't want to speak for both of you guys, but
hey, it's important though. It's their fault for those expectations. You had your rant, and I agree with you. And and that is still something when we talk about the staff being evaluated and potential staff changes coming. This coaching staff did not properly evaluate their roster.
No,
that's a fact. And we weren't just making up these high expectations. They said a lot of it too. We've talked about it.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people kind of had to reset their expectations a little bit. And we were like, as you just said, we were victims of the moment too. Probably still a little drunk off the national championship and all that stuff. But
Brock's always drunk. So
yeah. He shows up. The press conference is just loaded all the time, like, stumbling into Schembechler Hall, like mumbling to himself. Everyone's kind of looking at him weird. That Brock's got a reputation, I tell you.
I just remember that's how I figured out how young he was when we were at Nebraska, and I kept trying to buy the kid a drink, and he wouldn't let me. And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not 21." I'm like, "Ugh."
Now look at him. Our boy's all grown up. He's a big grown
big boy.
Grown up to be a fine young man. Anyway, enough about Brock. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it we're probably caught up in the moment too, but I think a lot of people just kind of, not necessarily they didn't care what happened at the end, at the end of the year, but they just wanted to see something they could look forward to.
Mr. Martini and Toski rivalry happening in the comments right now, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
It's a good old days, it's the good old days. But
go ahead.
Yeah, I just think a lot of fans just kind of wanted to see something, and then myself included. I wanted to see something that they could lean on for the future. And I don't think there's anything better to lean on than a win against Ohio State. Like that's the exclamation point on the future.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got things that you can lean on, and old habits die hard, and their habit right now is beating Ohio State, and that's going to continue. Continued this year. So, yeah, I mean, from obviously the record 7-5 isn't great, but you got something that you can talk about for another 365 days at least. No matter what the future looks like, but. I mean, it's hard not to be
biased. Yeah.
It's hard not to be optimistic about the program now, considering, who they're going to add, not even factoring the portal, which they're going to add guys, and they should add a name here pretty soon. There you should be optimistic after. It sounds crazy to say after a 7-5 year in which they looked at times really bad. There's optimism to be had, and the opportunities of what's ahead are endless. It's limitless. They can do whatever they want to do right now, and it's all up to them, and it's all up to Sherrone Moore and getting the right guys around him and developing. That's all it comes down to.
We're bouncing around a little bit, so I want to make sure, because I just saw a comment and it's kind of got me realigned. I want to talk about defense in this game, and I want to talk about Wink. Wink deserves a ton of praise for the back half of the season, frankly, the adjustments that started to be made, the way he's dealt with injuries. What he did Saturday, when you think about McDonald in 21 and the bend don't break, and giving up as much yardage as he did to Ohio State, but not only letting them score, and Minter, what he did in 22 and 23, man, this performance is there. Wink should be proud and shoving it all in our face. I will say, and this is my pushback, part of the reason he did so well in this back half is he made the adjustments. We didn't see the crazy exotic looks as often. We saw a lot of base sets with your standard 4, and Barham wasn't dropping back into coverage a ton. He was playing standard linebacker, and when they did blitz, they sent him quite a bit. Tim made a really good point, though. The absolute game changer of this season, two guys that had moments of greatness and moments where entire games where we picked on them a ton, were Zeke Berry playing the nickel safety hybrid Mike Sainristil role, and Makari Page, who was basically asked to be Rod Moore. Mm-hmm. He was safety, he was nickel, he was corner, he was linebacker, he was in the box, and they were both just being asked to do too much. And with the Will Johnson injury, Zeke Berry was moved to corner. I mean, all but like 1 or 2 snaps, played almost exclusively outside corner. And Makari Page has been like exclusively nickel for the last couple games. Genius. Absolute genius. Both of these guys, just switches went off and they absolutely thrived. Zeke Berry was fantastic in coverage on Saturday. Makari Page with big tackles. Brock, you were talking about like these different moments in the game with Ohio State, the mental edge. When he hit Will Howard and stopped him short on that third down, that might have been the biggest one of like, that toughness meter like crap, right? And I still don't know that he should have been put back in the game. I want to know more about that, by the way. But anyway, and then his interception too, obviously. And then Wesley Walker stepping into the other safety role and playing big. Houseman playing big. Barr playing big. All these guys just thriving in these roles. But if you would have told me at the start of the year, even like, hey, Zeke Berry's going to be a full-time outside corner and Page, we're moving to nickel, I would have been like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And we always talk about, I think the biggest strength of a coordinator is being able to realize the strengths of your team, adjusting to your strengths, finding that balance between your system and your roster. Home run, man. Yeah. With the injuries he's dealt with in the secondary, and obviously up front at different times, what Wink did these last few games is incredible. I think going into next year, I'd really like to see a safety coach added. I think that would benefit Lamar Morgan, who props what an incredible job Lamar Morgan did with this group as well. Yes, right. Yes. And obviously his recruiting has been strong. Yep. But I really think that would be like the next level, to just a little bit more help in that secondary. But we've gone from, I don't care how much you're paying him, like Wink's got to go level type conversation to that dude just earned his check, man. And like, I hope he is going to talk that shit this week. He earned it, man.
Yeah. He brought it when he needed to bring it. And that's all you can really ask for anyone really on this team and at this course of the year and after what happened. Don't get me wrong. I definitely think the criticisms in the early season were valid. Right. Maybe not all of it. Some, yes, to a degree. But I still think a lot of the criticism surrounding Wink was mostly unfair.
I will never stop complaining about Mason Graham on the edge 14 times.
And look, he's not infallible. I mean, look, he's not infallible. He's not, he made some mistakes. I don't think all of the all of the gripes and stuff were fair. But yeah, I mean, I think, look, he mentioned on Inside Michigan Football last week that, from the halftime at Oregon on, the defense has kind of flipped the switch. I agree to that to a certain degree. I think Indiana on has kind of been the biggest flip switch of them all. But
two snaps technically counted for Mason Graham as edge yesterday.
Yeah.
And you can be over tackle. That's not necessarily standing edge either.
Yeah.
Because when they went three defensive linemen with Benny, he'd get pretty wide. That's not the same thing to me as when like literally he's the standing edge replacing Stewart. But anyway,
he was Graham was fantastic on Saturday too. Nice
work, Jason. At least 2 times. That's impressive.
Yeah. Lamar Morgan deserves his credit too. I mean, he's coaching really well right now. Almost got into a fight with Jeremiah Smith on the sidelines. But posted.
I'm not gonna say he got punched, but
yeah, right.
A fist moving forward.
Yeah. Posting a screenshot with Ohio State's coach with his phone number in the
next to the dude.
But recruiting
was the coach that was trying to grab the flag from Jason Avant, by the way.
Yeah,
so
that's funny. That's funny. It's a lot of good right now from the defensive coach.
Hey, T-Mobile, I need a new phone number.
Yeah, Espo really well. I mean, getting guys like TJ Guy and Rayshon Benny, even squeezing the most out of a guy like Cam Brandt and Trey Pierce too. The future is really bright on that defensive line because they're going to need it, because Graham and Grant, they're not coming back. They're gone. They gone. Josiah Stewart probably gone. Derek Moore, we'll see. Maybe
Josiah Stewart's definitely gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is gone. That's right. He's out. Yeah, he's gone. So guess what? You're gonna have to have new players on that defensive line next year. But yeah, a lot of good to take from that from the youth, and I'll be really curious to see what
2 youths
this bowl game is going to look like, because this is going to be a heavy youth focus. I'm sure there's going to be, I know there's going to be sit outs, but
well deserved.
Yeah, they go out on a high note, boys. Like it's fine. The poo poo pee pee bowl, if you remember my rant. They don't need you. You're good. You do your thing, guys. You're good. Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see what this defense is going to look like during the bowl game, wherever they end up going. I mean, I don't know if it's the Pinstripe Bowl or the Relia Quest or wherever, but it's going to be a very youthful game, and I think that's a good thing, because again, guys like Mason. I didn't even mention the Mason Curtis too, who's played really, really well these last couple of weeks. I don't think he got very many snaps. I don't think he played at all during the Ohio State game. But, there's a lot to look back on this season and kind of point towards the future and say, hey, this was a growing year. This is a down year, obviously. So, and look, it's a down year and they still beat Ohio State.
Yep.
So it's like, hey, whatever, it's all good. It's all good.
I made my 2 youths joke. Brock, have you seen My Cousin Vinny?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Oh, he's got to add that to his movie list.
Yeah, I'll watch that one next.
What's her name? Marissa Tomei? Is that her name?
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway,
I don't even want to know.
I just went to a place where Marissa Tomei was, and now I'm back with you two. Brock, defense, wink.
Yeah. The biggest thing I took away from the defense yesterday was, for obviously 10 points to Ohio State is absurd. That's going to go down in history as one of the best defensive performances by a Michigan football team ever. Like, better than a lot of the performances they put up last year, which is insane to even think about. But the one thing that stood out to me was the tackling. And
yep,
that's something they had struggled with all season long. Missed tackles, like multiple per game. Makari Page was one of the biggest culprits of that, was just flat out missing tackles. But yesterday, they perfectly ran their bend, don't break style of defense to where they didn't give up many big plays, any big plays, really. Ohio State never beat them over the top. They kept everything in front of them. And it seemed like the second that Jeremiah Smith or Emeka Ibuka or Carnell Tate caught a ball, Makari Page was there to make a tackle. Zeke Berry was there to make a tackle. Jair Hill was there to make a tackle. And that's the only way that Michigan was going to be able to win that game, was letting them get theirs, because you're not going to completely shut down Jeremiah Smith and Ibuka and all those guys, but you let them get their yards and you tackle them where they catch the football. And that's the biggest thing I noticed. And even in the run game too, that wasn't as surprising. I was more surprised by the job the secondary did, but Ohio State couldn't run the ball at all. And Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, you guys already touched on it. They were fantastic, and they were very gap sound. Didn't let Ohio State run the ball. Tackling was just good all over the field, and it needed to be in order for Michigan to win that game. And I kind of talked myself into this point here, but Ohio State ran the ball way too much, and
they tried too hard to be tough.
Yep.
And they're not that. They are not that.
The pass to run ratio, I believe, was 33-26. And if you take out the 4 passes they threw on the last drive of the game when they were trying to get in field goal range there, when their only option was to pass, and obviously they were more pass heavy at the end of the first half when they were on their 2-minute drive, it was about even pass to run. And I completely agree with you, Josh. Ohio State tried too hard to be tough. Ryan Day heard everyone, as he has all the last 3 years, talking about how they're not tough. And, he had that big explosion at the end of the Notre Dame game last year when he said, we're a tough team, this and that. And on Saturday, he tried to prove it. He tried to prove it by running over Michigan and wearing down Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, and they never did. Graham and Grant were solid until the end. But they just wanted to keep sticking with that run game because they proved they were tough. You wanted to wear them down. And
is that me or Brock?
That's Brock.
Working.
Brock. Hold up.
I hear.
Yeah, I think I really scrambled there for a minute.
Yeah, I think you're good there. I think you're good now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, rewind like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was saying that Ryan Day was proving he wanted to be tough, and they tried to wear down Graham and Grant. They couldn't do it. And they even when the passing game was working at the end of the first half, they were moving up tempo because it was the 2-minute drill. They were hitting Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and all these guys. But then Ryan Day comes out in the second half and still wants to run the ball. And TreVeyon Henderson, Trevor, the stat you pulled, Alex Orji ran for more yards than TreVeyon Henderson. And I can't remember. There was one run where Quinshawn Judkins took it off the right side and ran for like 14 or 15 yards, but they could not run the football. But Ryan Day was stubborn and he wanted to stick with it. And I think that's what ultimately cost them the game. Was he wanted to prove so bad that they were tough and that they could out physical Michigan, and they couldn't.
I agree, but also the team that has run for more yards in this rivalry has won 23 straight times.
That's a good point.
So at the end of the day, I mean, how much do we talk about if this is a tie game in the fourth quarter? Or, Michigan couldn't fall behind. That was the most important thing. They could not fall behind, because if they had to play catch up, they couldn't do it. Right. And when it's time to run the football to win the game, which is what happens in this rivalry every single time, you can't just start in the fourth quarter. And look, they only ran the ball twice in the fourth quarter. By then, they're panicking, and now you get into, does the pass set up the run? Does the run set up the pass? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I agree with you. But look, Will Howard completed less than 60% of his passes. He threw 2 picks. He was off. They had decent coverage. They didn't, they had 2 dropped picks in this game too. So I get that frustration. I think it was more when they ran. There was a third and how you brought up right up the middle. What You know you're weak on the interior on offensive line, and you know the strength is the defensive line. Misa Graham, why are you running up the middle? Go outside. Go outside. Right? Was it a 3rd and 10 where they ran it before the field goal they missed?
Delayed.
And the crowd just booed like crazy because I'm like, ooh.
Yep.
You know, so there were 3rd and 10 draw. Thank you, Shadyville. Did like all of our cut-ups people just like show up because Toski's here? This is crazy. So that part I think you could dispute a little bit, right? But like again, they went to go get Chip Kelly and Judkins to run. I mean, they explicitly said that's what their goal was going to be. You know, and I think all things are true. I think he is too obsessed with proving he's tough instead of just being it. Sherrone Moore nailed it in the press conference. I like this version of Sherrone Moore, by the way. He's like, well, we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Don't talk about being tough. We just are. It's just who we are. We just do it. Right? It's so true, man. You're seeing this Ohio State team just trying to talk themselves into it. Right? I agree. This is like the one, Toski's right. This is the one year where like the strength advantage was so obvious on passing. And look, Jeremiah Smith was getting like Michael Jordan level treatment, dude. Props to the freshman for already having that. But like the one PI, you're hugging the guy on a ball that's thrown inside and it's a bad throw. The other one, he grabbed your arm because your hand was in his face mask. That touchdown, what a beast he is. Yeah, because he literally ran over Zeke Berry to get open, you know? So I don't know. I don't know, but look, this is, we talked
Michigan
about
has given Ohio State the blueprint on how they're going to play them for the last 4 years. Nothing has changed by the way Michigan has played defense the last 4 years. They're totally fine giving you everything between the numbers. They don't care if they give up 500 yards passing. When that field shrinks is how they're going to react to you. When I say they, how is Michigan's going to react to you? Yeah. And when the field shrinks, Michigan's defense shows up and is shutting down the scoring.
But
they
only gave up 250 yards in this game.
Right, exactly. And then they don't they couldn't do that either. But and somewhere in this country, you know, Lou Holtz is out there slobbering over himself, going, "I was right the whole time, guys. Ryan Day is super soft." That was my Lou Holtz impression, by the way. I'm not gonna go pro with that, but he's slobbering over himself somewhere, going, "I was right. I was so right, guys.
Oh my god,
you know the game."
But you know what? The whole toughness thing, though. I mean, that plays into it again, like screaming, like Lou Holtz catching. Yeah, what did Lou Holtz ever do?
He's eating his applesauce and about to take his night meds, and then he'll be all right.
All right. But guys, look at this fourth quarter. 101 total yards to 10. Ohio State had 1 passing yard in the fourth quarter. They didn't have a first down. Was it halfway through the third quarter? Was their last first down in the game?
Yeah.
Something like that. 0 for 2 on third down. No first downs in the fourth, obviously. Michigan, who struggled on third downs this year, goes 4 for 5 on third down. They ran the ball 19 times, 4 yards a clip in the fourth quarter. Time of possession, 13 minutes and 3 seconds to 1 minute and 57 seconds in the fourth quarter. I mean, I don't know. I haven't rewatched the whole game back yet. Because I don't know, I just wasn't ready for it yet. But it still kind of feels like, how did they win this football game? Right? It's wild. Last thing on this game, so we're already at an hour. Last thing on this game and the rivalry specifically, and I do want to dedicate one more round of questions just to kind of the future.
If anyone wants to hear me do more Lou Holtz impressions, just let me know in the comments, and I've got a good one lined up. I've got a good one lined up right now that I could do. Someone just say the word, and I'll let it rip.
Go.
No, it's all right. No, I don't want to be forced to do it. I'll let people. I don't want to force my impression.
I'm forcing you now.
No, I don't want to enforce my impression
Okay,
on people.
you're-
I'll let.
You're reminding me of there's an SNL sketch of like I think it's in like the 20s or 30s, and there's a character they're like in a party like getting ready to like circle around the piano, and like John Hamm's like, well, I mean, if you guys want me to play, I can. And the girl's like, oh, don't make me sing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't make me sing. And they're like, nobody asked you to. Like, well, if you really want me to sing, I guess I will. You know what? You want to tell it? Go. We got a couple duets here. You're good.
This guy right here, soft as baby shit. This whole Ohio State program is as soft as baby shit. The Buckeyes cannot beat the Wolverines. Buck Muzzy, Notre Dame, we weren't Ryan Day soft. We're not baby shit soft. You.
I'll be here all week, folks. I'll be here all week. Okay. It's okay. I'm not going professional with this Lou
Yeah,
Holtz.
I never understand how our show always runs over an hour, but there you go.
Yeah. We always say, we got to keep it under an hour, but this one was never going to go under an hour, but
no. Dude, I've got 3 more rants in my head I'm probably not going to get to, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But Lou Holtz has spoken.
I do love this one because it's the British cooking show.
Yeah, that's a
if you put ham in it, it's really more like a British carbonara. What? No.
The guy goes, oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, if my aunt had 2 wheels, she'd be a bicycle. Down they go. Well, because you know what's happening? He's thinking of the actual joke, and he's like, well, what can I say on TV? I'll make her a bike.
Yeah, right.
Okay. One little mini rant, and then the question I wanted to ask. Just the last thing on this rivalry, resetting it, and all this talk. And like I said, Michigan, for some reason, it's only when they win. Everyone gets to decide you didn't behave properly. You're not allowed to be happy in the tunnel, so that somehow we had to hit you and jump you and hit you with helmets.
Yeah, right.
Right. And then again, hey, I know you guys were taking the knee and won, and we pushed you and we're mad because of it, but you shouldn't have pushed back. And then in this one, like, well, you got to know if you try and plant the flag, like it's been happening for years and happened in Michigan twice this year. Texas and Oregon both planted their flag in Michigan's field. Is it a stupid thing? Sure, but it's college football. They do stupid things, right? I keep seeing this like disrespect thing and winning with respect and being disrespectful. You literally won't even call Michigan. That team up north literally won't even call them Michigan. Beyond that, the scum comments and and I know what fans are terrible on every side. Okay. But like Patrick Barron, one of my favorite photographers Michigan has, literally gets a great photo of an Ohio State fan spitting on Michigan players. And it's like, it's a flag. How are you that pissed off about a flag, dude?
Again, it goes back to the softness portion of this
yes.
argument. You know what stops planting flags?
Win the game.
You know what stops it? Win the freaking game. Win the game, and you won't have any issues. They put up more fight at the end of the game just to show that they're so soft that they can't do it on the field, that they have to throw this thing, I'm not going to let him plant the flag again, like Jack Sawyer crying. Like, come on, dude.
Do you honestly believe if Ohio State won that football game, were they shaking Michigan's hands and going to the locker room?
Oh,
no.
Hell no.
They were going to celebrate on the field.
Of course they were going to storm the field and God knows, do and say whatever, and they would have earned it, and they would have had a year of it, because that's how rivalries work. You get the year to talk. That's what you win by winning the game.
Win the game, and none of this happens. Win the game. You can do that next year if you win in Ann Arbor. Like, just win the game, and that solves all your problems. You don't get beat up in the tunnel. Win the game, and also don't
Well, and then they bring up
assholes on your team too. That's also a different story.
they bring up it's like, hey, we've won 4 straight, and they're like, yeah, we dominated you. Yes, we know. We know Ohio State dominated this rivalry for nearly 2 decades. Other than Alabama, because they won so many national championships, Ohio State, though, in terms of wins and losses every year, conference, whatever, they're right there. Premier program in college football the last 2 decades. I know it sucked. It sucked real bad. Like so many Ohio State fans were like, I just want this rivalry to be good again and Michigan to be good again. That's not what you meant. You wanted Michigan to be good again, but you guys still win every year. That's what you really meant. Like, and it's like, oh, Michigan, you got to act like you win before. No, you got to lose. Chloe Mullings, you got to learn how to lose, buddy. What a freaking quote, dude.
Yeah. And he can say that because guess what? He's not
4-0.
He has lost, and he's
Ohio State from 2020 on commits. Ohio State. Quinn Ewers is the only one to beat Michigan at Texas, and Julian Fleming will be the only one to get Indianapolis at Penn State. Guess what? Not only do they get to talk shit today and for the rest of the year, those 4-0 guys get to talk shit the rest of their lives.
Yep.
I've told you guys before, I saw JT Barrett at the game before 2023 coaching with the Lions. I walked up and I shook his hand and said, respect, brother. Dude never lost to Michigan in this rivalry. You got to respect.
He was still short, though.
He was absolutely short. I could never tell him that. No.
He was still
but
short.
The respect the rivalry thing doesn't, it's just so dumb. So dumb. I'm so sick of it. But anyway, look, grand scheme of things, we've talked about like each year has been almost cinematic, right? Like the 21 to 23 felt like a trilogy in its own way. Somebody compared this one to Rocky IV, which I think is hilarious and a really good comparison. I don't want to live in the moment and say this was my favorite one. I don't think this one, it's hilarious. It's the funniest one. It is funny.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It is hilarious. But this one doesn't feel the way it does if you don't win the last 3, right? The emotions of this game doesn't exist without the previous 3 in the national championship. So it's hard to say it's the best one. I still think 21 was the best. Yeah, Toski, I love you so much. I still think 21 was probably the best. Yep. That feeling of getting over it, and that was 2 really good teams that played really hard, blah, 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 whatever. But man, this one deserves its own little piece in the movie, whatever we're gonna get up to now. But it's the funniest one, and it might be my favorite. It might be my favorite one.
I forgot my prop this year. Damn. I knew I was forgetting something coming into this thing. But you know what? I mean, they already proved my point. I don't need to bring in a toilet paper roll to know that they're soft. So, and Lou Holtz already said that. So I had Lou Holtz come on and the guest in the pod, and he said that they're soft. So I didn't need to bring in toilet paper.
Okay, that's a new thing we're doing.
I brought my friend Lou.
We're going to tend to bring guests on the show, and we're going to do impressions. It's happening.
Yeah.
That's a new thing. Go ahead. So anyway, my question, again, you're in the moment right now. Who knows? But like, I don't know necessarily ranking it, but like, is this your favorite one, or is it just like another piece of the pie? Or
I still think 23 is probably the best because of all of that sign stealing bullshit, and that all stemmed from them. I think it's 20. I still think it's 23. 24 is absolutely just hilarious and funny and just hilarious. But I think from a satisfaction standpoint, 23 shut up a lot of people. 24 just, silenced them to forever, with this sign stealing crap. But I mean, all of them. I mean, like, man, I mean, you know what? My favorite one is the next one.
Oh. Tom Brady line.
Oh, all right. Fine.
For me, I'm looking at 23 as the most important. Like Toski said, that one, I mean, it was the national championship year. Both teams were undefeated. You win that game. en route to a 15-0 season. That one, I think that one's still the best, at least in my opinion. But 2021, nothing can compare to 2021. Even though not as much was on the line, that was just a feeling for Michigan fans that can't be replicated, in my opinion. Not having won in a decade and finally being able to get that monkey off your back. I think 2022 was the most entertaining with all those big plays, getting the two to Cornelius Johnson, and then obviously Donovan Edwards and Colston Loveland having that 45-yard touchdown as well. I mean, that was just big play after big play after big play. But then, yeah, as everyone has said, 2024, absolutely the funniest of all time, like not even close. Ohio State brings back their entire team and spends $20 million just to score 2 points and lose to Michigan again without Will Johnson and Colston Loveland and Donovan Edwards for a half. If you would have told me,
and a walk on a QB,
right? Yeah, a walk on a QB, a lacrosse player making.
Yes,
player,
that third down conversion was the biggest of the game. 2 former walk-ons.
Oh, Michigan's motley crew of players.
And a former linebacker, running the ball 30 plus times and driving the knife into Ohio State's back. I mean, it's just the funniest ever. And if you would have told me back in February or March, before Rod Moore got hurt, that Michigan was going to beat Ohio State in Columbus with no Rod Moore, no Will Johnson, no Colston Loveland, no Donovan Edwards for a half.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually insane to think about, and I think it's the funniest win for Michigan over Ohio State probably ever, and it compares to 1969 in my opinion. It really felt that way with how the crowd reacted.
Yes, because Brock was very much alive in 1969.
Hey, I've appreciated some of the history studying he's been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done his homework.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And then on top of that, again, when you think about how sure they were going to win, the 20-point favorite piece of it, and then how much, Josh, you're right. 2023 shut up a lot of people, except for Ohio State and Michigan State fans.
No,
it still wasn't enough. And I have seen, I mean, there's still some Ohio State fans absolutely dedicated to the worst cheating scandal since the Black Sox bullshit. But anyway, I saw a lot of Ohio State fans that are like, guys, we can't blame cheating. We look stupid. Like, you can't, did you just see that game Saturday, and so there is some realization. And I think I mean, there's just this acceptance now that they can't avoid, and even any excuses you make now, it's like, guys, really? Okay. I don't know what else Michigan, it will never get easier than it got Saturday. I'm not saying Ohio State will never beat Michigan again. That is insane.
Right.
But it will never get easier than it was Saturday.
Yep.
Never. And part of that is, and we'll touch on this real quick, I'm literally getting texts about recruiting right now, and I have been throughout the show, so I don't feel super comfortable talking about too much, Josh, in terms of whatever. Look, we've touched on Bryce a bunch, and Bryce coming. Jordan Young did flip earlier today. That secondary continues to look insane. Yeah, I'm already in my head. I don't know what I want to bring up or not bring up. But look, the Moorementum, if you will, at this point.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Ooh.
That's pretty good. There you go. Yeah, I'll take that. There you go, Trevor. The dye job included.
Ryan Day looks like one of Trevor's old managers at Circuit City. Bro, that is so good. I'm going to Photoshop him into a Circuit City shirt. The part that I'm laughing about internally is there's a gentleman named John who worked at Circuit City, and I'm like, you know what? That's not that. Oh, that's so good.
John Ray.
More momentum trademark. Yeah. But look, we don't know. I think we do know Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Colston, Loveland, high possibility. Will Johnson, Josiah Stewart, maybe Derek Moore. We don't know what's going to happen with Rod Moore. Like we know these guys are leaving, and I would expect them to opt out from the bowl game. One, they deserve it. Two, you're going to hear some things about these guys that I hope makes a lot of you feel bad for even questioning their toughness this year as the next couple weeks go on. But anyway, Bryce is going to be a part of these practices and probably be a big story. I think it's just impossible to avoid the sense that 2025 starts now, right? Signing day is coming up. There's a couple more recruits. They're working hard to flip names that could shock, and then maybe some more going in. And then the transfer portal is already here. But these bowl practices and then the bowl game itself, I'm hoping to hear a lot about Bryce and Jordan Marshall and whichever receivers are really bought in and hopefully staying and moving forward. And maybe some movement on the offensive line too. Some pieces are playing there. Defensive line, there's some guys that didn't play enough this year, frankly, that might have big roles next year, right? I guess where are you in terms of your – again, we've had people in here on pods not that long ago calling for Sherrone Moore to be fired.
Yeah, well,
where are you in terms of this more damn it, it's a great thing and I can't even say it. Moorementum, your optimism scale, wherever you want to put it, where are you right now going into this? I mean, it's not the offseason yet, but it feels like it just with the timing of everything.
Yeah, I totally think Sherrone Moore should be fired. I mean, there's just no hope right now. It's pretty bad. No, I'm just kidding. No, look, you get rid of Sherrone, you're not getting Bryce. So take your pick. Which one you want? Both? You want neither, or do you want both? So I think I can tell you which one you'd want. So like we've been saying this whole time, this program is going to go as far as Sherrone Moore leads it to be. He's got some decisions he needs to make in terms of his staff that I expect him to make coming up, and how he makes those moves with the resulting move after that is going to really determine the trajectory of the season in terms of development and stuff like that. The portal is going to be huge for Michigan. I think I could probably expect a larger than normal portal class. I don't really know what a normal portal class for Michigan looks like, because it's kind of been,
especially in the new era too.
Yeah, it's kind of been all over the place for kind of been all over the place the last couple of years for Michigan. They've had like 2 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys. It's kind of so. Yeah, I mean,
overrated.
Yeah. But I do expect probably more departures too in terms of portal, but I think that's just the modern era. I think that's just what college football is these days. It's so rare to have like less than 5 guys leave your program. I mean, hell, even none. I mean, if you have 0 people leave your program during a portal window, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something special over there, because I don't know how that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're gonna. I mean, realistically, even in the previous years, they lost like 13 to 15 guys.
Yeah.
And some of it's like, look, and especially now with the limit at 105.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be guys where it's like, hey, you're not really in the 2 deep yet.
Right. I mean, there'll be people like walk-ons or whatever, and then some people will make a narrative like, oh, Michigan's lost 20 guys in the portal, but it's like half of them are all walk-ons that never really played anyway, or a scholarship.
There's going to be a lot of people that aren't able to play football anymore after this year, and it's a bummer. It's just there's always been this like massive loss in the portal where like, I can't remember the percentages, so I shouldn't say them, I'd be way wrong, but a large portion downgrade to either, power 4 to G5 or even lower to like D3, D2, whatever. And a lot of those guys don't even sign with new teams, and I think that this year is going to be the worst year for that. But
it's tough. But I mean, look, I think fans should brace themselves for a lot of departure. I wouldn't say a lot, but a good amount of departures. That includes NFL guys. However, they're just going to add more guys. They're going to offset these losses with guys. So I think people are gonna freak out naturally because that's just how some people are. Is they get a little nervous and
I'm not gonna do
assume the worst.
what you think I'm gonna do.
Okay.
Freak out.
But look,
Brock, any idea? 2 movies. Give me which one. Either one. 2 movies that was in.
Two movies that was in?
Yeah, the original movie, and then somebody kind of spoofed it in another movie.
I couldn't even begin to guess.
Josh, anybody? Bueller?
I'm not even thinking. I can't even think of something right now. I can't even think of it right now.
Jason got the spoof movie Half Baked.
Oh, right.
When he's trying to leave the album store he works at or whatever.
Yes. Duh. Yep.
Jerry Maguire.
Yes.
Toski, thank you. Jerry Maguire.
Toski got it.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
You seen either one of those movies, Brock?
No. I have not. I've never heard of Half Baked, and Jerry Maguire sounds familiar, but I'm not quite sure.
Oh.
I need you to get some. Anyway, you need to watch Half Baked in a certain state of mind. It's early Dave Chappelle, and my God, what? Yeah, I'm from Jamaica.
Well,
Where in Jamaica? You know, right down by the beach. You saw Half Baked in the theater? Good Lord. That's amazing. Show me the money. So good. Anyway, so you're optimistic. A lot of changes.
Yeah. I think they're gonna.
We are off the rails at this point.
They'll lose guys, but I also think they'll add a lot of good talent out of the portal.
Yes,
they're equipped. I think they're equipped to add talent too. So
I wasn't from Jamaica. Why would I be wearing this hat? Oh,
the money cannon is aimed at the portal, and it's going to be firing. Thank you, John.
I'll jump in here really quick while Trevor recovers. For me, it's as interesting as the portal is going to be, it's going to be all eyes on Bryce Underwood. And how he develops.
Is this his program, Brock? I mean, it's Moore's. We've already talked about that. Continuity's out there. No more Jim Harbaugh. This is Sherrone Moore's program. Is Bryce Underwood 1B at this point already the face of this program or whatever?
I think so. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. Yeah. He's 17 years old and he's the face of the Michigan Wolverines. But I think that's the fact of the matter. And obviously he won't be playing in the bowl game, but he'll get to practice. And I figure Josh will be getting some reports on how he's looking. Everyone's going to be interested to see what this kid's got, right? He's going to be the presumed starter going into
over under 5.5 references to Cam Newton.
I don't know.
It's coming and everyone knows it. Good God. If Jayshon Barham was a stronger Devin Bush, I can't imagine what I'm going to be told Bryce Underwood is.
Oh man. Yeah. It's going to be, we're going to get so much.
That was an unnecessary shot at Barham's been great this year. I hope he comes back next year. But, yeah.
That's about all I have to say. I mean, he's going to be the whole focus, and they're going to have to bring in a lot from the portal because they're going to lose quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, going into this year, this is something I was thinking about on my way to Columbus on Friday. Michigan had known variables. They had Will Johnson. Obviously, he didn't play a whole lot this year. They had Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Colston Loveland. They knew what they were getting with a good core group of guys. Going into next year, they're really not going to have that. They're going to lose all of those guys basically, and you're going to head into 2025 with not a whole lot of known commodities anywhere on the field. And quarterback, running back, you're losing Mullings and Edwards. The wide receiver group, who knows what that's going to look like? It's almost impossible to predict. Defensive line is going to be overhauled essentially. And you might know what you're getting at linebacker, but other than that, most positions on the field are going to be changed. And so, Michigan's going to have to patch some holes with guys in the transfer portal, but all the focus is on Underwood.
Yeah, and let's be clear, we're feeling really good right now. And Moore and his Staff should feel really good. Momentum's in a positive place. But a lot of things were not good this year that were clear indictments of this coaching staff. And there's some things that are going to be a problem going into this offseason because of this coaching staff. To Brock's point, at the beginning of the year, I remember talking to the message boards. Everyone's like, oh, man, but you got to remember this guy's leaving. This guy's leaving. How are we going to replace? They say, guys, we always feel this way at the start of the year because you haven't seen the other guys yet. You don't know about the next Mason Graham or these other guys that are going to start to play this year. We saw so little of the younger guys this year that they are going into next year with a lot of unknowns. Talent, tons of talent, absolutely. But the lack of experience for like a guy like Dom Nichols, who very well would, there's always like the top 4 rotation on edge. Nichols is probably going to have to be there with like a Cam Brandt. He didn't play very much. And it's like you hope Benny you get to stay and Derek Moore and these guys that look, we're in this era people are going to tamper with and try and get some of Michigan's best players, right? But then like Enoeta was a guy that was supposed to play a ton and didn't. And then running back, I really like Ben Hall, and you guys know I am obsessed with Jordan Marshall. He was hurt, okay, but if that's RB1 and RB2 next year, they haven't played very much. So you start to think, man, they're already going to be heavy and active in the transfer portal anyway, but they may have to go after starters in positions where guys probably think they're going to be the starter next year. I wouldn't be shocked if you see some people leave this year in the transfer portal where you're like, really? I would have assumed he'd be the starter next year, and they probably know they're going to face competition. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that anybody on the offensive line should feel safe going into next year because Michigan can't not add a tackle, even though they have Sprague and Frazier and Link and Gentry. They probably can't not add a guard and even a center with Crippen. Like, it's going to be really interesting how they attack this. My optimism continues to be high. Finally, to the point, I'm sorry, because I think Sherrone Moore, I've said this before, looked at recruiting and saw an issue and was able to be forward thinking into the world that we were going and what it needed to look like. He laid out a clear plan, a clear vision, and what the results of it would be. And he executed it with multiple people involved. We're seeing the benefits now. I mean, the talk right now is Michigan is literally now the kings of NIL. And not just like throwing money at players, but the actual infrastructure that exists, the professionalism. This isn't coaches promising $600,000. This is business leaders sitting down with parents and players and having real conversation. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different level. And I feel like Moore is now going to look at this coaching staff and the infrastructure of issues like challenging plays that shouldn't be challenged, not calling timeouts when they should be, some of the rotation issues we saw early on. I mean, a lot of that stuff improved through the year. I think there's going to be some real changes. There has to be, or a lot of that goodwill that you've bought gets lost. Now, got hair in my mouth, sorry. I'm not ready to say exactly who I think those people will be, can be. I think Biff coming back would be a great thing. I think adding somebody on the staff that's a former head coach that can kind of play that role as head coach 2 with Moore would be good. I've brought up the safety coach addition, I think would be good, but we'll see. Those are the changes they're going to have to make. The roster will completely turn over in a lot of ways, like Josh said, but look, it's exciting. It's good to have optimism again. And maybe the sad thing is the basketball team will start. Did you notice Michigan started playing better than the basketball team? Like the ecosystem, bro. It's unbelievable. It never stops. Yep. That is terrible. Let's knock out some quick questions, Josh. Dan Mullen will be OC. I mean, he's a name we've heard. I don't think it's super locked down because it's so rare that like the first name that comes out there is actually a guy. Yeah. Right. Jason Candle's another name we've heard, right? Again, we just saw with Gus Malzahn leaving head coach at UCF to go be the OC at Florida State. I think you're going to see that a lot. These head coaches at a G5 level moving into the OC role at a higher spot. There's some other names out there, but we'll see and we'll judge it when it happens. Let's see. I thought there was, Michigan loses Miles Hinton and Josh Preeb for sure. On the offensive line, Greg Crippen and El Hadi each have a year left. And then obviously Gentry, hope comes back fully healthy. Link will be there as well. Who put that in? There you go. What is this called when people? I don't know why people give money. Thank you, I appreciate it. But what's this
thank
called?
you very much.
When the Red Wings play when the Red Wings play Columbus Blue Jackets in the shoe next year, everyone should sport the blue and maize and blue. Larkin and should wear their winged helmets. That would be tight.
That would be funny.
That would be amazing. I don't get the Brian Greasy thing at all. Like, I get former Michigan quarterback, but like, dude was he's been a QB coach for a couple of years in San Francisco. Like,
yeah, not every former Michigan player equals a good coach.
Well, the biggest complaint about Kirk has been the play calling, and he doesn't have a lot of play calling experience. So I don't know why the answer would be another guy that's never been a play caller before.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. He hasn't been on the radar for a while. So,
yeah. Yes, Tulane OC Joe Craddock got mentioned by Feldman. Is that a package deal with Mensa as well? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes or no? Do they land Boateng and Gompers, Josh?
I still think they land Boateng. Gompers haven't really heard much lately. I'll say yeah for now.
Both?
I think they'll land both. But I don't know. I'm more confident about Boateng than I am about Gompers, and obviously Boateng is the premier prospect out of that too. So
yeah, Boateng gives you another 5-star caliber type guy at another important position. They both felt like locks at different points. Boateng is always mostly in love with the visit he just had. So, obviously going to Colorado, then they were kind of in. At the end of the day, I think Michigan offers everything and checks every box, and that'll satisfy Boateng, his family, everybody in his camp. I feel good about him. Gompers, I want him to come here because I love that name so much. Like, you just got gomped. I wonder if Gompers doesn't come, if Boateng does, if any of that exists.
Possibility. That's a possibility for sure.
I don't know. I'm going to go yes, Boateng, no Gompers right now.
That's fine. I probably should have said yes, Boateng, no Gompers too, but I said yes to both.
We'll live. Klein is coming back again. I feel like anybody could enter the portal.
Yeah.
Right? Like anybody could. So, but yes, eligibility should come back.
There's really like you can't really talk about anyone with certainty in these days.
No, it's so hard. At least I did the offensive preview that I did today, and I more so was laying it out in the context of, look, these are guys that are leaving for sure. We're leaving because I think of NFL draft potential, and here's guys with eligibility, and where the depth chart kind of shakes out, where I think transfers could add. I'm not at a point yet where I'm comfortable saying, well, this guy should explore. I think this guy will. I mean, we've obviously heard some intel on a few dudes. We're just not going to talk about it yet. I don't know who on this team I would say there's no chance they leave.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You just don't know,
Yeah, I think we're kind of like, I think that these days we have to say, does blank have eligibility left, not is he coming back, because who knows these days, who knows? So
does the Hart decommit hurt Hilson? He was at Texas A&M this weekend too, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, they're two different sides of the ball. I don't know if that really matters all that much. I mean, maybe I would think it would be kind of weird if that happened, because again,
dogs, at least they quarterback, wide receiver. That makes sense.
Yeah. If it was an offensive player, then I would say, probably. But I mean, we'll see on Hilson anyway. He's always been a solid maybe in terms of him being in the class. So, but I don't think like Hart decommitting just directly hurts Michigan's chances for Hilson. So,
agree. Brock, did you see Prieskorn go down during warmups?
No, I didn't. I had no idea. I was down on the field. Everything seemed normal. I didn't see anything, and then I got back up to the press box with maybe about 40 minutes until the game, and that's when I started seeing the reports that Prieskorn went down. So I'm wondering, it may have happened either I wasn't paying attention when I was on the field, or it happened when I was in the elevator and in line waiting for the elevator to get up to the press box. But no, I did not see what happened.
I how do I word this? I know what happened, but I'm not going to say anything. I'm still kind of waiting of what the direct impact is going to be for this injury. So that's all I'll really say about that. We don't like to get involved in the specifics with injuries and stuff. So I'm not gonna.
That's what it's called.
I'm not gonna talk much about specifics, but kind of just waiting on if he's going to miss time or anything like that. So
I'll let both of you guys answer this. How many Michigan assistant coaches are changed in this offseason? Fun fact, under Harbaugh, I think it was an average of 3 per year. Like it's just not that unusual.
I think someone mentioned 2.5, like over under of 2. Steve mentioned
perfect. I love that.
Under 2.5. Yeah, I would say over. I would take the over.
Over. Okay.
I would take the over. Yeah.
Don't worry about
it. And not necessarily meaning someone getting fired either. But
no, again, that's a pretty common cycle that I think you could see. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll go under. I'll go under. I think I don't want to speculate too much on names, but yeah, I'll go under.
I'm gonna go over. Yeah, it's tough to answer that. I shouldn't have even brought it up. It's tough to answer that because I can't really explain some of my logic on some things yet. I'm gonna go over. I do think there's some movement or reassignment that could exist as well, but we'll see. I think the bigger point is I absolutely trust Moore to do whatever he thinks is right. And I think this program has shown, whether it's Wink already being the second highest paid defensive coordinator or the activity that you're seeing with NIL, I mean, they're not going to get cute. Whoever they think is the best person for job X, they're going to go get that dude. And then when they do, we'll talk about it and explain why we hate it so much. And then they'll prove us wrong and blah, 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 blah. Brock, you've seen 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Highly doubted that as well. Let's see. A couple more. What do we got? Who's the most important guy to come back who has a realistic shot of coming back? Ooh.
I got my answer. I'm going Rod Moore.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Zavada at this point for me.
It's automatic. Zavada.
I mean, I'm hoping that they don't lose him to the NFL, but it wouldn't be transfer. It'd be NFL or not. I mean, Derek Moore is still kind of up in the air to figure out what he's going to do, but he would be another one too. It's either Zavada or Derek Moore for me.
I'm not going to, Jordan Marshall, I see where you're going, but I'm not going to count that like the transfer, more NFL leave or like obvious transfer portal guy. Rod Moore is probably the answer, like Toski says, because I think in another year of transition, and we just talked about roster turnover, and I think one of the biggest voids on this team this year was on the field leadership. I think Rod Moore is an absolute game changer if he's on this roster in 25. You're gaining what you get in terms of the player at safety. Him and Brandon Hillman next to each other, by the way. Yes, please sign me up. And then the leadership that he would, the guy's obviously been a leader, but there's just a difference between the guy on the sideline and the guy knocking dudes and making tackles and getting picks on the field, right?
Don't sleep on Bredesen, though.
Yeah, Bredesen's a good answer, too. Derek Moore's a good answer. I'm trying to think of somebody else. I do think so. Steve Horn brought up Barham, and here's where I am on him. I put out a tweet during one of the games about how Houseman's a good pull too. He really played well at the end of the year. How I thought moving him to edge made a ton of sense coming back for a year. At one point, I thought he'd probably be a risk to leave. I don't think he is now.
No, I don't.
Because I think he was out of position at linebacker this year. Real high career moment for me. Patted myself on the back when Senior Bowl director Jim Nagy retweeted that and agreed with me about Barham moving to the edge. I talked to him a little bit after that just to kind of see his thought process on it. And he basically, of the mindset, Barham could literally be plug and play in Stewart's role and probably have that type of season.
Yep.
Barham in pursuit is unreal. I made a joke earlier in the year. He's a cold seeking missile. Like when he didn't know where he needed to be was where he kind of got lost. If you tell him, hey, go get quarterback, he goes and gets quarterback. You know what I mean? So I hope he's back. And if he moves to that weak side, I think that's a great answer for replacing Josiah Stewart, along with some of the dudes you already have on roster. But yeah, an Abdul Carter kind of move. Yeah. All right, that's enough. Hour and 45 minutes is kind of ridiculous. So,
yep. I got Franklin needing to go out, so I gotta.
Oh. He's really adjusted. Doesn't make appearances like he used to back in the day.
He's been a little sick, so I gotta.
Oh no.
Gotta take care of him.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was a fun one.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do this again next year.
I will never get sick of beating Ohio State.
No, absolutely not.
But all right, guys, again, really high viewership, consistent throughout the entire show. Lots of interaction in the comments. Can't tell you guys how much we appreciate you. A lot of subscribers loyal joining us if you're not already. Shameless plug. 75% off. Good until Monday evening. Promo code Rivals24. Michigan.rivals.com. Again, you get access to our message board community, the Den. We are active in there. An article I wrote today was an idea from one of our subscribers. We work for you guys. That's kind of how we go. And then obviously Josh's intel that was sharing there, premium content. There's going to be a lot. We're coming up on early signing day, the transfer portal, like things are about to get crazy. Obviously basketball as well. So if you're not a subscriber already, Michigan.rivals.com, promo code Rivals24 gets you 75% off. We'll be live again next week, Sunday at 7. I don't know what we're going to talk about. Wait, are you going to be gone or is that the week after, Josh?
No, I'll be here. I can still do podcasts when I'm gone.
Josh is taking a trip to his Mecca of Australia, going back home, and he's going to try and do a podcast with us while he's out there.
Yep.
I can't wait. I've told everybody your accent needs to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. I doubt it, but maybe it might slip out from time to time, but we'll see.
Listen,
yeah.
man.
Maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe not next 2 Sundays from now. We'll kind of have to figure out. Maybe we should probably do a pod for signing day too. So.
Yeah, and we're already getting our signing day hub together as well. So that's another thing. Keep it. It's going to be a weird one this year. We still don't fully understand how players are going to be announced per se. Like the fax machines are gone, right? So make sure you're over at Michigan.rivals.com. We're going to be covering the signing day throughout as players roll out, and of course we are expecting some flips and maybe some surprises between now and then.
Yeah. Yes, I am Australian. Yes, I was born in Australia. I am not American.
I was born in Germany, so you guys are watching a couple foreigners. Ha ha ha.
Yep.
So.
The foreigners are taking over American football.
I was on a military base, so I'm kind of cheating, but my mom was German, so I had both citizenships for a little bit. But anyway, Brock, where were you born?
Right here in the United States of America.
In that room?
Yeah, I know.
In that same room?
He's like, yeah, literally right here.
I'm standing right where I was born.
Oh, the great state of Michigan.
Brock was
That's where I
born
was
in a
born.
lab.
Born in a lab. That's funny.
You had Vegemite?
Oh, it's disgusting. I hate it.
It's terrible, right? Yeah, it's awful.
It's disgusting. It's
He has no movie knowledge, thus born in a lab.
Yeah.
I think it's a generation thing. I think it's a generation thing. We grew up in a time period where I didn't have access to every show and movie whenever I wanted, right? I had a movie that I liked, so I watched it over and over again because I knew I liked it, and that's what I had in front of me in terms of entertainment. You know what I mean? So like,
I also think quality of movies have just took a nosedive since the 90s.
yeah.
Like overall looks of movies, obviously with technology have
Sure.
improved, but the quality and like just good movies, you don't find them very much anymore. I mean, yeah, you see like a lot of streaming helps with in terms of distribution of
Yeah, the
movies.
content has gone up in terms of production.
Quality way down.
Quality way down. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and just the type of movies that get made now, like you can't make. There seems to be some kind of pull to like the movie theater thing, but yeah, movies today are just remakes of old movies.
Yeah.
I had to
Too much nostalgia pulling, not enough originality. You know, I think that's kind of the big thing.
I had to go back and rewatch the original Gladiator, which has always been one of my favorite movies. It was one of those ones that was on TV a bunch. If it was on, I watched it, whatever. I had to go back and rewatch it because the sequel was so shitty. Like, I don't understand why they do it. And I went back and watched the Gladiator, the first one, which I think was like 99 or 2000. So this movie's almost 25 years old. It still holds up. It looks incredible. The acting is incredible. What they pulled off with the Coliseum and even the technology from 25 years ago is still really, really good. Like, what a great film, dude. And they can't do it anymore. It's crazy. I don't know. I mean, Christopher Nolan has had some that have kind of like moved me in that way, but
yeah.
Just a bunch of Australian stereotypes now.
It's not a bad movie. Their movies aren't bad. I've seen it.
That's not a knife.
Yeah.
This is a knife.
That's not a knife.
Brock, any idea what we're talking about?
Nope.
Okay.
No idea.
Crocodile.
Crocodile. Have you ever wrestled a kangaroo?
Oh yeah, all the time. Every family Christmas, we would gather around and wrestle a kangaroo.
Darbo trying to bring up stereotypes is hilarious. Mr. Iowa boy. I'm debating if I want to bring up the thing we've been trolling Darbo about for the last 2 weeks, and I don't think I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. It's hilarious, though. I will bring up one thing about him, though, because I want to prove how wrong he is, and then we're going to go. Darbo thinks medium rare steaks are disgusting.
Oh, no. He's one of those.
Any steak with any bacon in it is raw. Yes.
He said a well-done guy?
Medium well.
No, Darbo. Come on. Come on, man.
He's wrong. He's absolutely wrong, Detroit Lions.
Watch, he probably dips his steak in ketchup, too.
We are going to have a crew together for the Nebraska game next year. Darbo will be there.
Oh, Darbo.
Toski, Brock, I've already told him I'm taking him to that steakhouse whiskey place we were at last year, and I will buy his steak, and I'm going to get him. I haven't decided if I'm going to do ribeye or I got to learn a little bit more. Ribeye or a filet, but bitch is getting a medium rare, and he's going to love every bit of it. Don't put up smiley faces. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
That's just wrong. Just wrong.
You must be new to the show, Vince. Brock is always in the most bizarre situations for our show. He's in a room loaded with like Christmas paper. Sometimes he's been in a closet a few times.
It is really a new room every week. It's impressive.
It's actually amazing.
Hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
I think from Australia is going to be a quite an achievement for Hale.
Yeah, you can't beat that one from a different country.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna have to.
Oh, Dave. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
We're not going to share that comment.
No. I almost did. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah, so moving forward, we'll have to have characters that appear on the show with different accents. That's something we learned today.
Yep. Good old Lou.
You got another Lou in here? Or are we good?
How
about this? Yeah. Hold on. I do the sign off every week. You know the shit I say. You can figure it out. Yeah. I want Lou Holtz to sign off of Hail to the podcast.
Oh, you want Lou Holtz to come out? All right.
I will hit the end stream button. I know that's a lot for Lou to handle. For Trevor, myself, for you guys. But Lou Holtz, go ahead and take us out.
Okay, folks. This has been another episode of the Hails to the Podcast. This is your boy Lou Holtz. Ryan J is soft as all get out. It's just Newt Rockney would never stand for this. Every time he sees him on the sidelines, it's just not a tough team. It's a very soft team. So, this has been another episode of Hails to the Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe to this episode. You can find all of our intel inside the den on the Mason Blue review. I'm going to have to clean off this microphone spit screen here because it's slobbery. But thanks again, everyone, for showing up. Ryan J is still soft. And thanks again for being here. And yeah, this was a really good, fun episode. So thanks again. Go Irish!
See you guys soon.